Hey friends, and welcome back to the Rice Family YouTube, where we are on day 3 of our family road trip, and today is the day where things really started to shift. We are leaving Kanab and heading to Arizona, watching the landscape completely change, crossing time zones, and stopping at 2 incredible places, Horseshoe Bend at sunrise and the Meteor Crater. By the end of today, we'll finally arrive in Phoenix, but something unexpected happens that changes our plans. So let's jump into day 3. Our goal was to get to Horseshoe Bend early in the morning for sunrise, and I'm so glad we did. There is something really special about seeing a place like that before the crowds arrive. Horseshoe Bend is a dramatic curve in the Colorado River, where the water has carved its way through the rock for thousands of years. From above, it creates that iconic horseshoe shape with towering cliffs dropping down to the river below. It's one of those places that's hard to fully capture on camera. You really have to see it in person. Just so you know, from the parking area, there is about a 3/4 mile walk each way to the overlook. The path is mostly packed with dirt and sand, and there's a few slight inclines. It's considered family friendly, but there are a few things to keep in mind. There is very little shade, and it can get really hot later in the day. There's also steep drop-offs at the viewpoint, so kids, especially littles, you want to stay aware and very close. One thing we did run into that was helpful to know, because we drive an NV 3500, which is considered a larger vehicle, we actually had to pay the commercial vehicle rate instead of the standard parking fee. After Horseshoe Bend, we got back on the road and headed towards our next stop, which is the Meteor Crater in Arizona. The Meteor Crater is one of the best preserved meteor impact sites in the world. It was formed, they say, about 50,000 years ago when a meteor traveling at extremely high speeds struck the Earth. The impact created a crater that is about 3/4 of a mile wide and over 500 feet deep. And standing at the edge of it really gives you a perspective on the power of that moment. Many creationist researchers believe the meteor impact likely happened after the global flood described in Genesis. That would place it somewhere within the last several thousand years rather than tens of thousands. Their reasonings include the land's surface after the flood would have been more unstable and reshaped. Many geological features we see today are attributed to the post-flood process, and a visible, well-preserved crater suggests a relatively recent event in that framework. Creationists also often interpret geological features through a catastrophic lens rather than a slow, gradual process. So instead of this formed over 10,000 years ago, it becomes this formed rapidly from a real powerful event, which actually fits well with what we observed at the crater. It was a sudden high impact event. This stop is actually interesting from an educational standpoint. It gives you the opportunity to talk about space and meteors, also the force of impact, and geology and land formation. And it naturally sparks curiosity in kids. It's one thing to read about something like this, but to actually stand there and to see it is completely different. While the site is very accessible, there is also a visitor center, as you see here, with educational exhibits, viewing areas, information about the history of the crater, and you can walk along designated viewing paths to see it from different angles. And they had a simulator, which I would say half of our kids enjoyed, but it was fun and very educational perspective. So after we finished at the Meteor Crater, we prepared everyone to be able to eat while we drove. As I mentioned in the last video, I made a pasta salad for us to have in the car. So we just added the dressing to it in the Ziploc bag, gave it a good shake, put it on plates, handed forks out, and we were on our way. What I love about preparing meals ahead of time is one, the cost savings. Goodness, it is expensive to eat out at special places like this. And what we had today, it was simple, it was easy to serve, and a refreshing option after being out in the sun. Having meals ready like this also saves time and helps the day move smoothly. So after lunch, we continued to drive to Phoenix, Arizona. This part of the drive really shows a shift in landscape, as you can see in the video. You move from those red rock cliffs and desert formations into more of an open desert environment with a completely different feel. One interesting thing about this part of the trip was the time change. As you leave Utah and head to Arizona, you are crossing into a different time zone. Utah is in mountain time and Arizona is technically in mountain time, but Arizona does not observe daylight savings time. So depending on what time of the year, the clocks can feel a little confusing. When we arrived at our Airbnb, it felt so good to get out of the car, get some wiggles, and settle in. This is going to be our home base for the next few days. We unpacked and got everything settled, and one of the highlights of this day was the property itself. The house had a pool, a hot tub, and it was located along the canal with a paddle boat. It was such a fun setup for kids and a great place to relax after several days of travel. One thing to be aware of if you are booking a place like this, many homes charge extra fees to heat the pool or hot tub, so that's something to check ahead of time. Later that evening, Nana and Papa joined us, which made it even more special. Dinner was simple and easy and relaxed, and after a full day of travel and exploring, it is exactly what we needed. Day 3 was a full day, a travel, beauty, learning-filled day, and finally arriving at a place to rest. And I think that's something I've really come to appreciate about trips like this. There is value in movement, not just the destination. But what we didn't expect was that our time at this house wouldn't go quite as planned. Something happened that caused us to leave earlier than we thought. So in the next video, I'll share what happened and how we handled it as a family. Thank you so much for following along our journey. If you enjoyed this series, we would love for you to subscribe and share it with another family who might be planning a trip like this. And I'll see you in the next video.